the final thing we have to do in terms of animation is we have to make the player die. So we have to play the death animation when the player runs out of life. But in addition to that, we need to do some extra things. Firstly, we need to play the correct animation, and then we need to reload the game. Before we can do either of those two things, we need to stop the player being able to move the character. So let's get on with that. I'm going into script view, and that's my global script. So I just want my player script. And the first thing that happens is when the player dies, the scoreboard calls the player and tells it to die. And we have this die function here. We're going to retain this function, but we're going to call it reset game. And I'll put the die function back in just as a placeholder. So I go func die, and then I'll just go pass. And now I'm going to go into the GUI, and rather than calling rather than saying get tree call group player die, I'm going to call the reset game method. And I'm just going to test it, check that it still works. I'm going to jump into my hazard, and yeah, it resets the game when we die. Good so far. All right. So now I've got my die function, and first thing we need to do is stop the player being able to move once the character has died. So I am firstly going to use this function to reset is alive to false. Once we've done that, I'll make this a bit bigger. Once we've done that, we can use it to stop the player being moved. Okay, so first thing is in handle jump, I just want to add another condition. So it's if input is action, just press jump and is on floor, and I simply want to add and is alive. Save it. Okay, the next thing is I need to move all of this in one level of indentation. So I've selected it all. So from variable direction equals input get axis to animate, I've selected it all, and I'm just going to tab it in one level. There we go. I need to just go up one line and put a conditional on there, and I want to go if is alive and a colon. And that stops me moving if I'm not alive. Okay, because that will not run if is alive is set to false. All right, cool. The next thing we want to do is get the die function to play if we die. So let's try that. So in function die is alive equals false, and animation player dot play. And I'm just going to play one die animation, so whichever way I'm facing, just to test, I'm only going to play one. See if it works. Let's try it now. Jump onto the hazard, and it resets the game without playing the animation. Okay, do you know why that is? That's because the scoreboard has called reset game, and it needs to call die again. So let's change it to die. This time, remember, a different thing is going to happen when the player dies. So I jump onto my hazard, I die, it plays die left, and you see it keeps looping because I am no longer calling the function to reset the game. So, okay, so we know that's working. I just want to refine that a little bit. So in the die function, I want if not facing right and a colon. And then I want animation player to play die left. And then I just want to go if facing right, and a colon, animation player, dot play, die right. Save it and test it. Okay, and I'm playing die right, disappearing, and it keeps looping. So I'll have to reset the game manually and just see if die left works. So I'm going to just die by the crab this time. Yeah, that works too. Okay, and as you can see, it keeps looping. So we need to solve this looping problem now. And we're going to do that. I think we're actually done with the script. We might not be, but I think we might be. We're going to do that in the animation player. And in the animation player, we're going to call reset game once we've finished playing the die animation. So what do we want? We want the animation player, and we want the animation panel down here. So click on animation. And I'm in die right. And I want to click add track. Call method track this time. And the method is on the player. And let's move the playhead to 2 seconds. Let's click on this function track here and right click, and it says insert key. And it gives me a choice of script methods. And at the top are the ones that I've created myself in the function. So I want reset game. Give that a save. See if it works. So I need to jump into the... well, it hasn't worked, and I'll tell you why. If your player disappears, I go back into animation. It was actually working, but my player was invisible because I had left the playhead for die right at 2 seconds. At 2 seconds, modulate is set to make this modulate track here is set to make the character fully transparent. So once I've finished working, I set it to 0 seconds. Playhead's back there, and it should all work. So let's test it. I need to die facing right, remember, because I haven't done it on die left yet. Plays the animation, resets the game. Okay. So what remains is to do the same thing with die left. So, die left, add track, script call track, so we call method track, on the player, so we move the playhead to 2 seconds, there it is, it was already there, insert key, and reset game is what we want. All right, move the playhead back to 0. Otherwise, I'll have an invisible player. And let's test the game again. Jump onto the hazard. I'm facing left. Plays a death animation. Resets the game. Jump onto the hazard. Facing right. Plays a death animation. Resets the game. Let's get the player. Let's get the crab to kill us. Same thing happens, and let's get the crab to kill us the other way. Same thing happens. Okay. Let's get that crab. Revenge. Okay, that concludes the animation section of this series. In the next section, we will create the portal that allows us to exit the level once we have successfully completed it. I hope to see you there.